Welcome, everybody. This is the first of our 5 sessions. Um, we're here to learn how to find calm in the chaos. And this first session is about breathing, which I now love, but I didn't used to. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about that, but for right now, what I want you to know is we've got some housekeeping things to go over. Every event you come to has a little variation. Honestly, my most important housekeeping is if you can grab your workbook or at least grab some papers. And if you didn't get the link yet, if you haven't seen it, we're going to drop a little QR code on here. So feel free to grab your camera, grab the link, go ahead and print, or have it up on the side for you to review. It's not necessary, it's more of a follow-up workbook, but what's in there gives you something tangible. And sometimes when we're learning, having something tangible is really good. So go ahead and grab that. And I want you to feel at rest. And so having water, I've got some electrolyte water here, um, drawing paper.
Yeah,
So you
or a
can do
journal
both.
if you don't have a notebook, any of that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And while
Anything
you're,
that gives, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, and while they're getting themselves settled as well, we can do some introductions of who we are. So that way they don't feel like they're missing any of the class as they move through.
Exactly, exactly. So that's kind of like the highlight to me of housekeeping is making sure your environment is comfortable, no one is bothering you. You feel like you have everything you need at your fingertips. So while you're experiencing this session, you get you don't feel like you have to get up and leave. So, Don, why don't you start with an
Well, welcome everybody. My name is Dawn Bennett. I'm really, really glad to have you here. Cynthia's going to bring you through this session today. And I just want to we're going to introduce ourselves because we're going to host a series of 5 sessions followed up by a retreat, which will give you links to all the free retreats. It's in your emails already. I've been doing this work for about 27 years now. And by this work, what I mean is the deep healing work with myself, with others. My background is in massage therapy, classical homeopathy, neurolinguistic programming, relationship and intimacy coaching, hypnosis. Like I've taken so many courses in this like ever desire drive to improve, to understand myself better, to understand the world better. And then of course, every time I take a class, of course, then I also get to go through some challenges to help teach me how to integrate this process. So just know that even when life doesn't seem to be going your way, often it's a little test. And not even like the universe needs to test you, but it's a way to encourage you to become stronger, to see more of your own light, to see more of your own beauty. So the resources we're going to give you in these next 5 classes are not just like, hey, you should learn to, learn how to do breath so you can be calm because being not calm isn't okay. That's not it at all. What it is like, hey, when you're stuck and like the world is challenging you and God's like, hey, listen, you have a way to be like, okay, here I am. How do I do this? So that's the purpose of these classes for you. And that's why Cynthia and I came together because we feel this is so vitally important, especially right now. A lot of people are in upheaval. The world's really unsure. I mean, there's drones flying all over the place and people are kind of not really sure what's happening, right? I mean, and there's always some level of uncertainty in our world. But when we can find our heart and find certainty in ourselves, and in our own security within ourselves and our own mind and keep our mind calm, we can have really amazing solutions. So that's our purpose of being with you here today. So Cynthia, go ahead.
love it? I love it. Well done, thank you. You are a master in many areas, and you yourself are a great resource for going outside of your own resourcing. So this session is about finding your own resourcing. And my name is Cynthia. I am the daughter of entrepreneurs. And so I've always been drawn to this lifestyle. And I started massage uh, about 20 years ago. I've been on a lifelong healing journey since I was 19. I was seeking that calm, seeking that peace within. And various steps along the way brought me to where I am today. And I still have room to grow, which is whoa, so wonderful. But together, we really want to present to you these opportunities. We have great dreams for ourselves, for our communities, and for our friends and loved ones. And we just want to be part of sharing that with you. So, with my history, I have the massage background. I have lots of advanced training in that, various coaching certifications, and I started a nonprofit organization to help bring this healing to people who can't always afford what is being offered, as well as really grounding yourself in like, this isn't mine. I don't own this. And that's a beautiful thing about a nonprofit. You don't own it. You just help make it
Mhm.
part of the community. So I love that. I think Don did a great job kind of describing why we're here and what we're after. So, as far as other housekeeping stuff, links, access to things, if you go to Eventbrite, Dawn Bennett is the organizer. So, if you spell her name correctly, two N's, two T's in Bennett, you're going to find the whole series, as well as those who have already signed up. You're going to have all those links, follow-up links. That's really easy to access. Plus, if you know either one of us, please reach out. You should be able to find us one way or another. If you found this, then you're well on your way, and we're here to help. So feel free to reach out and let us help you because we want you to receive it all. And we absolutely want you to see the stacking of these 5 series so that you can make room for a retreat next month. We're excited to share that with you. But I want to tell you my story a little bit about calm and breathing. So, Donna, are we ready to dive in?
We're ready to dive in.
Awesome. Oh, a couple things too. If you want to chat, drop your name in the chat. If you're not here live and you're watching this on replay, happy to put like hashtag replay and let us know your comments and your feedback. We really want this to be interactive. We know that a lot of this people just have to kind of pick up when they have time, and that is perfectly okay. But if you're interacting, go ahead and do that. If you're live and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I got a shout out, I want to talk, we do have you on mute at certain times because during a teaching, we might not want that interrupted so that it's a nice stream flow for everybody along the way. It has nothing to do with not wanting to hear from you. As well as we like to stay within a time capsule because if people set aside an hour or a half hour for something and we go 90 minutes, then they're like, oh, and we are not here to add frustration to your life. So we're really going to try to make these tight in the next series. So if you're watching the first one, this is the longer one, a little bit more housekeeping, but the next ones are going to kind of be like dive right in, do the lesson, apply it. And then, of course, if you want more, you can sign up for VIP. Do you think I covered it all there, Don?
I think so. I just want to remind people that when you do VIP, you only have to sign up for VIP once for any of the 5 courses, and then you get VIP access. What that means is you get an extra half an hour of time with us together after each session. So if you're the only one that signed up for VIP for all 5, you get us all to yourself. We can do some healing work with you or answer questions or anything. There's 5 people. We may pick a 1 or 2 to do some work with, but everyone gets a chance to answer or to get questions answered, to have some one-on-one time with us. So that's the purpose of VIP. VIP, when you purchase the retreat, will also carry over into the retreat recordings. So you really have forever access to those things. Otherwise, if you don't purchase VIP, we have a limited viewing for all of the recordings. So if you don't watch them within a few weeks, then they will be taken down. So that's the benefit of VIP. And then you can also come back and just do the work with us, right? Breathe with us, or remind yourself how to do the techniques in a really lovely and easy way. Have that support.
Yeah, we love to support. We're all about that. But I do want to say the reason why I love having the first session of breathing and calm is because I really believe that that is our foundational grounding. Um, you know, I was saying earlier that the breathing wasn't something I always loved. In fact, people would say, "Oh, just breathe." And I was like, are you serious? Like, just breathe? Like, what's going on in here? There was a lot of chaos. Um, but I've learned through the years to see the difference when I didn't understand what my body needed. I would actually have a lot of outbursts. And it showed how upset I was. As an infant, I bit my mother's hand so bad, she still has a scar to this day. I'd hit the ground with my fists and kick and scream when I was young because I didn't know how to express all of that uncomfortable energy and I needed to push it out. I yelled, I ran, I threw things. I did anything that would make it feel like the chaos would go away. And that natural response of just breathe, or calm down. It's not that big a deal. Perhaps you've heard them yourself. I remember vividly in my body, it felt like someone was pulling and grabbing from the inside my nerves in a bundle and just pulling and pulling and pulling. And I would feel the sensation pretty much high and to the left of my chest, just squeezing into my throat, creating a knot so tight in my stomach, it made a sour taste in my mouth. My body felt like it was shrinking inside and out. And those words, just breathe, became the most shallow response of the deep pain I was experiencing. I think breathing may have subconsciously become something I rebelled against. I wanted to have control. The more pressure I felt in life to perform, the less I think I'd like to breathe. I'd hold my breath so long, I'd have to take a deep, almost shocking breath, like almost have come out of the ocean from swimming underneath. But a part of me was swimming underneath in a very turbulent ocean. My life experiences in my most formative years were met with challenges. My little body didn't know how to process. My caretakers did the best they could with the tools and resources they had. But the explanation for my discomfort, it wasn't understood. Those terms like nervous system dysregulation, trauma response, somatic pain, they weren't common when I was a child. The people in charge of me, they only had the tools that made sense at the time, and which happened in some cases to be the right tools. Just breathe, just given in the wrong manner. Well, I'm a big learner, and if I can understand why something works, I'm often able to adopt the concept. But if I have questions that are surrounded by fear, I don't always trust that a simple answer is the right answer. Well, yes, it turns out just breathe, a great answer to any stress. And what we're going to do is take a couple moments of silence to practice one breathing technique, and then we're going to roll into another one. So, how's that feel? Just hearing that story, does it pull some stuff up on you? Donna, did you have any reminders?
You know, it's interesting because like we didn't have those tools, but now I think about how I interact sometimes with my nephew when he was, I mean, especially when he was younger, we'd be like, take deep breaths, and he'd be like, like he was just doing what we told. Like we didn't have any way of teaching him like a conceptual way of what that meant, right? Or how it was supposed to help him calm. So he'd just sit there angry and, and I was like, oh, now listening to your story, I thought maybe we could have done that a little differently. Like taught him what that meant in times of calm. And maybe my sister did. Like I shouldn't say because I don't know all the time. I just know that I was taught to tell him, take deep breaths right now.
hmm Yeah, and sometimes it works great. That's just my story, right? It might have worked great for him. I think that what I really wanted to do with the story is bring awareness around um you have the resources, you just might not know how to access them, right? And honestly, that's why we want you to join VIP. That's why we want you to come to the retreat. Like if you're among those first people to get into the live retreat that has limited space, I mean, you really get that deep, deep experience through each of these things because you're going to work through it and you're going to have your own personal story. And if you're in Zoom, you're going to create safe spaces around that, and you're going to be able to take those internal resources. Okay. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And I will say one of the things that just popped in my mind after I stopped speaking was I never really thought that breathwork was that big of a thing. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like I didn't really understand the power that it could have in shifting the system and in shifting energy. And when I did massage with people though too, and I talked to them about breath, we so often hold, especially as when we're taught to hold our belly in and breathe from our neck, really. And we use all, and then we get all these neck pain and tension and tightness and shoulder. And so here we are thinking like, oh, I need work on my neck and shoulder. But really what's happening is like we're breathing from our muscles because we're taught not to use our diaphragm, which then creates all this stress and all this pain and all these headaches. And I would have to like tell people like, okay, well, let's feel here. Let's feel here. Can you breathe to here? Can you breathe to here? And it's challenging for most people because our diaphragm forgets, right? So that's the lovely thing about what you're going to be doing today too, is like just allow yourself a gentle awareness to bring that back. So to calm all of this, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think what I love that you brought up about that whole like we're taught not to, even in society, at least here in the US where Don and I live, there is the flat body, the flat stomach that we fight for. And it actually pushes that diaphragm up and it doesn't allow us to get enough air in our lower cavity of our lungs. And it's science and it's the body and it's really cool. So, one of the things that deep breathing does is it stimulates the vagal nerve. Now, if we drop technical terms, don't worry. Some other time we can go into like, what does that mean? Ask those questions, please type them in the chat. Say, I'd love to know more about that. But just trust that there's a nerve in the body that helps us to communicate with our brain and stimulate all of the things that put us into fight or flight mode. Perhaps you've heard that language, fight or flight. It is that response in the way back of our brain that's like, get to safety, get there now. And it forces all of the blood to rush into our heart and into our limbs so that we can run to safety. But when someone says something to you that's a deep emotional wound, you don't actually run away. If the pressure of every tiny activity in your life is getting to you and you're not breathing, you don't run away from your life. You have to figure it out. And so that body doesn't know what to do. And you have these feelings of anxiousness and you have these feelings of overwhelm. And I want you to bring your body back online. I want you to not to attack yourself if it goes offline. And I want you to know that you have the resources within. So we're just going to start. We're going to like move. What I love to do is like, we're going to change states. So just if you can get up and turn around, move your body. All right. We're just going to be having a new frame of mind by shifting where we were. I'm going to do 3 really deep breaths. In your workbook, it'll say the 4-4-6. So we'll breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. And we'll go into details about why that works later. But right now, I just want to get you there. So go ahead and take that first nice big deep breath and hold, letting your body pick up all of the stuff it needs to expel and breathe out. Excellent. And again, just nice big deep breath in. Feel that oxygen in your body. Feel the carbon dioxide building to exhale and give back to the universe. And one nice big deep breath in. Gratitude for what we breathe in. Gratitude for what we release. Mm. How's that feel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So really what we just did was we joined the body's ability to regulate back together. So we have an autonomic nervous system. That's the stuff like your heart's beating, your breathing, you're blinking. All of the things you don't think about is going on. Then we have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic. And the best way I remember the difference between these two is when you're being really sympathetic to someone else's cause, you tend to put your own needs away. Someone's parent just died and you're like, oh, you're not going to be like, oh, well, your parent just died, but you know what? I stubbed my toe and had to change my tires unexpectedly. You're not, you don't do that. You're sympathetic to their cause in the moment. You're willing to lay aside your own stuff and not tend to it. You're sympathetic. You're drawn to that one thing. Parasympathetic is you get to pair with them. You get to rest with your friend and be like, yeah, hard stuff happens. I hate it when I stub my toe. I hate it when I don't have to I have to change my tires, right? Like it's a little less you're pairing together. So that's one way of remembering it. The sympathetic is the part that puts you into that fight, flight, respond, go to action. The parasympathetic lets you rest and digest. Digest all the information you're receiving. Digest your food, right? But digest everything. So when we take those deep breaths, we're resetting our nervous system. And when we do that, we go from that back brain thinking to at least our middle brain thinking where we can do some emotional work. Now, if there's a lot of emotional work to do, it might be hard to stay calm and step into the next level, which is your higher level thinking in your prefrontal cortex. Again, this is why we do the deeper work. This is why we want you to come and learn so that you can learn all these tools. But this basic tool to keep you calm of breathing, we're going to root in that. So, what I have within the workbook is box breathing. So, what you just did with the other type of breathing is just something you can do anywhere. I mean, you can practice that anywhere. You can practice box breathing anywhere. And that's why these two tools are really important for you to have. If you're um, hanging out at your friend's house and you get what's called triggered, you get a response within your body that all of a sudden your stomach tightens, you're shallow breathing, your eyes start moving rapidly, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? I'm like hanging with my friend and now I'm thinking about all these things that bother me. This is where breathing really helps. Because you probably don't want to tell your friend you just like started thinking about something completely off topic. But you want to be calm. So breathing is great for that. It just puts the body in a state that allows us to rest. Okay. So box breathing. Are you ready? How's
Yes.
everybody feel so far? Any questions? Are we like feeling like we need to dive in, go more explanation? Are we ready to pop in to breathing?
Looks like we're all good over here.
All right, sounds great. All right, so box breathing. It's a box. Pretty much anywhere you can find a box, you can probably picture a box. You can look at your hand and make it a box. There is everywhere you can figure out how to find a box. And that is the four, but it's four, 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 and four. So we don't necessarily do a longer exhale, but we do the holds in between each. So the first four counts, you'd be like up your picture frame, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in. Hold 2, 3, 4, go across. Exhale 2, 3, 4, go down. Hold 2, 3, 4, go across. And for ease, we're just going to do it 4 times. So I'm going to go 2, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to come around and be 3, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to come around 4, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit of a dance, right? A little bit of a rhythm with that. And so we're going to go ahead and practice that. And I want you in right before we go in to think about something that sometimes gets you feeling differently within your body. Maybe that chest tension, maybe that tightening of your throat, maybe that shallow breathing. Some people, let's not go too intense. Let's not go into deep, deep wounds. That's not what we're here for. We're here to manage the cookie mess. We're here to wonder how we're going to get to every party. We're going to deal with some of that chaos and we're going to find calm in it. So, give you a second, think about something that irritates you a little bit. I'm going to give you mine. I happen to be at a hotel because the timing of this didn't work for me to be at home, which is fine, except I'm in the morning where they're cleaning. And so literally right next door, it's like bam, smash, crack constantly while I'm here with you. So it's a little bit of an irritant. And if mind, I pay attention to that, it could get really frustrating. But I'm choosing not to let it. But that's what I'm going to think about. So if everybody has a thought, something that works for them, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to tap lightly and we're going to breathe in And you can close your eyes. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you're in traffic, you can't do that. So just choose if you close your eyes or not. So go ahead and we're going to go in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and out for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to be quiet. 2. And one more. Some work. Yay. How do you feel? Feel calmer? I shifted into gratitude.
Mm.
I was like, huh, I'm so grateful I don't have to clean my room when I leave.
It is lovely. One of the things I noticed, and I've seen these kinds of things before, as I was learning how to do these kinds of breath work, I used to hold intention. Like I'd be, because I don't like holding my breath in, but I don't mind holding my breath out. It's this really interesting thing. So some people like having full lungs of breath, and like they can hold their breath in forever. And other people can hold their breath out forever. And the opposite is true for some people, right? And so it used to be that when I was holding my breath in, I'd be like, and I would like hold in this tension. And a couple of things that really that people said to me. So if anyone else is struggling with this, is that I said instead of holding, think about it as a pause. Like I've brought in for 4 and I've paused because that
Mm.
feels less tension. And then someone else said, imagine that as your lungs fill with air, you're being held from outside, like you're holding yourself from inside out, right? So like the breath, that like the fullness of breath is actually you like holding and supporting your own frame and your own structure from the inside out. And I was like, what a lovely way to think about holding breath if holding breath to you seems challenging, right? Because some of us do have situations in the past where we have been forced to hold our breath and maybe didn't want to, right? And so when we allow ourselves to soften into it in different ways, it can allow for that softness and that gentleness and that power of ourselves to come back into that space. So I just wanted to mention that if anyone was like, oh, why can't I hold my breath? Or, so this is all about learning. So just notice one's
Absolutely.
challenging for you, great. If another one's challenging for you, great. Maybe your 4 count is faster. You see
Yeah.
people counted 4, I'd be like, that's a long time. Where am I going to start doing the next one? Right? So find your rhythm, and you'll find that as you do this, it'll get easier and easier, and your count can go longer and longer.
Yeah. And I think that it's so funny. I'm glad you said that because even as I was counting, I'm like, I'm probably not even counting the same 4 count I started with because I'm starting to regulate more. And as I regulate more, my count is slower. So it's probably, it's a technique. I mean, that is the whole point of this. It's a technique. So when you are out and about and you're driving your car and the traffic is crazy and you get to a stop site and you're feeling all the do your windshield, breathe with your windshield, right? Like just calm down, breathe with your, you could do it while you're driving. We just want you to be safe. But the point is, anywhere you're walking, you can take that moment and just breathe. And now, just breathe doesn't sound like someone is telling you that, telling the story behind the words just breathe that you may have grown up with. Um, I also want to say the holding your breath is a great example. I don't like holding my breath, even though I do all the time unintentionally when I have to hold my breath. I don't, we live in the Twin Cities area and there's a longer tunnel. So there's a short tunnel and a longer tunnel. And there's this game we play to hold our breath while we're going through the tunnel. And like swimmers that I would go with were like, let's hold it from the beginning of the short tunnel to the end of the long tunnel. And I'm like, yeah, crazy. I'm not doing that. But they've practiced that holding their breath, and it's fun for them because they know the longer they hold their breath, the longer they can use that power of being under the water to propel them. So every technique and every tool is adaptable to you. And that's what you need to realize you need. I don't mean that way. What I'd love for you to realize is you have the power and the resource within. We're born with the most, I don't even have a word for it. The most adaptable way to get to calm lives within us with every breath we take. Isn't that cool? I just
That is
love
really
that.
cool.
I
Yeah.
love that. Breath work itself is a deep journey. There's all kinds of ways to do breath work. There's people who are certified breath workers that will teach you. But what I'd like you to know within your body is breathing shallow tends to breathe upper chest. Breathing deep tends to be below that belly because you're filling your cavity with air, and then that diaphragm is expanding, which pushes your belly outward. And then when you drop down and that diaphragm pushes up, it expels the breath.
Mm.
And when you do a lot of work, you'll find that breathing in the back of your lung, the rib cage behind you is an expansive piece. And so the more you get to breathe these deep, long breaths, the more experience you'll have in accessing calm. What tool I'd like you to walk away with is not only, hey, we did two types of breathing here in class, there's many more. You can really just focus on breath, and that's breath work. But what I'd like you to walk away with as a tool is for you to practice when you're calm.
Mm.
Because chaos doesn't tell you when it's coming, chaos just comes. And if you haven't got your brain trained, your reticular activating system is a little part in your brain that goes and grabs the most amount of information on that information highway that it's been looking for. It's like, oh, hey, look, this is what we did last time. We slammed our book on the table and our kid jumped, but they stopped annoying me. So the brain's like, slam something, right? Well, we don't always feel great about that afterwards because we don't want to scare our loved ones. We don't want to scare our coworkers. That is not our goal.
What's the time?
Ideally, we want to be, being the most loving as we can. We want to resource calm. And so if you practice more resource calm, again, this is why sessions can go forever and trying to stay on point. But boy, we could go back to it is okay to be upset. And it
Mm.
is right to be upset sometimes. And sometimes you just take a book and you slam it intentionally, right? So I don't want to negate any negative, like put all negative on that. But really, what we're doing here is resourcing the calm. So we take the breath, we take the pause, we take back our own control, and we say, I'm choosing to breathe. Um, but practicing, the Harvard study that I mentioned came out in July of this year, dates back, through the resourcing of time. I think it was in the 70s when someone first came out with breath work as a term. So this is not new,
Cynthia, did you
but
mention the Harvard study on while we were on recording? I don't remember you doing it while we were actually on recording.
oh, I probably didn't say the word Harvard. I think I
Okay, maybe
just
that's
said,
why. I was like, what did you?
I think thank you. I think I just said I recently read um about a study. So you're right. I probably did not say Harvard study, but this particular Harvard study, good catch. She is such a good teacher. This particular study does talk about that from the 70s and how um, I forgot. I literally that pattern interrupt. That's something else that can be taught. But the point is that there is a lot of research around breathing and how it helps your body regulate. And the idea of um, minimizing the science behind it can be prevalent in society. And so I want you to be aware that these practices, thank you, that's where it comes from. Within that article, they too iterated practices. They said you should be, I don't, this is a choice, but they said 10 to 20 minutes a day of practice intentional breathing. So basically, every few minutes, you should, according to this study, be taking some kind of intentional breathing, which when you learn lots of different patterns of breathing, when you pull on different resources of ways to bring calm back into your center, into your being, it the 10 to 20 minutes is welcomed. You know,
Mhm.
you can choose to take an extra minute to 2 minutes when you go to the bathroom and just breathe.
Mhm.
You can choose to get in your car instead of taking off right away. Breathe. You can choose to get up in the morning and do intentional breath work to center yourself to the start of your day. You can do it at night. You can do it right before dinner, right after dinner. It doesn't take that many quick moments to add up to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
So practice your practices. That is my biggest mantra while you're calm. And that is making time for yourself. And how many of us put ourselves last?
Mhm.
Because the need in front of us is great. Because the children in front of us, the job, the coworkers, the family, the friends. And we do just say, I'll just take a minute to respond to this text. I'll just take a minute to pick up these toys. I'll just take a minute. But if we could take two, the first minute before I do that, I'm going to breathe. Or 30 seconds, right? So practice your practices. And the practices that we learned today were deep breaths with gratitude. I want to talk a little bit about that first one that we did, and then intentional breaths with pacing. So the first one, I'd love to be reminded of how this entire world is designed for us to thrive. And these beautiful trees, that is kind of our theme with rooted and grounded, give off the carbon dioxide that it cannot use. I'm sorry, gives off the oxygen that it cannot use to us. It's our gift to live the breath of life. And we get to take it all in and oxygenate our body and our brain. Did you know that the brain takes 20% of that oxygen just to thrive? And if you have lack of oxygen, you have cognitive decline within 10 to 15 minutes. You ever working so hard and you're like, all of a sudden your brain is foggy, you can't think? You probably haven't been breathing. Breath is so important. Oxygen is so important. So taking in that nice big deep breath, letting the body just pull all the toxins with the carbon dioxide, everything up. So when you expel that carbon dioxide, that no longer serves you, there's nothing that it does positively for you. So you've got to get it out. Those trees, like, yes, thank you. They thrive and are alive, and their roots grow deeper. So they're blossom can be larger and we can receive that oxygen again and again and again. Oh, it to me is just this beautiful, beautiful gratitude. For today, I would love to just spend the next 3 minutes for you. We're going to hold intention for you to resource all of what you've learned, grab those ahas and oh, yeah, moments that you had, and want you to give yourself permission in this space to go ahead and pour out some of that negative self-talk that can come with not being calm when there's chaos. So, with deep love and intention for the next 3 minutes, Dawn and I are going to hold space.
Mhm. So just to be clear, you want them either to box breathe or do the 4 in, 6 out. Yes. Or whatever breath work they want to
Yeah,
choose.
if they have not learned a technique,
Mhm.
grab one of the two and
Mhm.
take this time for your own pace to practice the tools that we just learned.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. How's that feel? Yeah. Oh my goodness. And that was 3 minutes
Mhm.
of quiet breathing. And I mean, if Harvard trained specialists tell us we ought to do it for 10 minutes a day, we're a third of the way to peace. Well, I'd like to really just recap real quick and then leave time for any questions and answers that would be available. And just thank you for being with us today, trusting us
Mhm.
with your energy, with your presence, because it truly is an honor to spend time with you, whether we're here live or we're on replays, we're with you intentionally. Our love goes out to you. And so we're so grateful for that. Um, Breathing is our base resource. It's it's how we're born. We've got a body that has a nervous system that runs automatically. And it kind of has these two primary parts, the sympathetic, the parasympathetic. The sympathetic, that's our run, 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 go, 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 and get safe. And our parasympathetic is like, oh, good, we get to calm, we get to rest and digest. And it's designed to flow together, turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on. But when we get stuck over here in sympathetic too long, that's where we're not finding calm. We're not finding peace. We're not getting our rest. And so we need to use the tools that we have access to. I am going to apologize for using the word need. I would love you to use the tools so that you too can feel calm and peace. The vagus nerve is our kind of our regulating nerve. It is really the internal tool that sends these hormones up and down the channel and help us to regulate. Regulate is not something you can like train and attain, like no matter what, I've practiced long enough. Now I always regulate. Life is life, and you're always going to be faced with new opportunities. I know.
Darn it. I thought maybe next year I'd perfect it.
Me too. After years and years of not perfecting it, and yesterday sitting in a chaotic situation that got me, don't know why. Um, I had to practice compassion on myself and say, you know what? You are human and also bound to the human laws that all humans are bound to, which is that perfection of perfect regulation. Just as it's not, it's a fantasy. So give it up and give yourself permission to give it up. But go ahead and practice and practice and practice when you're calm so that when you have a situation that you've had hundreds of times before, you get to choose differently. You get to attend in a calm way.
Yeah, because it does get easier.
It does. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it does. It gets
Yeah,
easier. You find more times of calm. Trust
absolutely.
your people. Trust yourself. Trust your people. Did I
Absolutely.
hit? Did I kind of hit the overview of the sciencey part?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And what I love about this series is the next thing we're going to move into next week is about rewriting that inner story. So, right now, some of the times that we get that emotional upheaval is because we've got a story about it, either from a past event, what we were taught to believe, what we were taught to know or understand about life. And then we kind of hypnotize ourselves into this is what it is, right? Like, do you ever have this person where you think they're such a jerk and you're like, how can anyone be friends with them? Right? It's because of how your interaction is different with them than somebody else, but then it also becomes a belief, right? So that's a really simple way of thinking about it. Like if I think John's a jerk and then all of a sudden one day he's really nice to me, I'm going to be like, why is he being nice to me? But I think if I think John's super amazing and one day he's a jerk to me, I'm going to be like, oh, John's having a bad day, right? So everything that we experience in life comes from our beliefs and our stories that we tell ourselves. Now, these stories are healthy and they're there for a reason. And what we're going to do next week in our half an hour session is we're going to give you some tools on how to change the story where it no longer serves you. In other words, places that you feel like you're reacting too much. Like, oh my gosh, I just got super upset in traffic and I wish I could stop doing that. Or why does it bother me so much when I hear or when I see or when I experience that? Can I react in a different way? Right? And so we'll talk about how limiting beliefs, patterns show up in your daily life, and how the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Right? So the same way you procrastinate is the same way you don't interact in your relationship is the same way you do something at work. Like all of those things are linked. So we'll make some powerful steps with that next week. I've dropped the links in the chat. It's also for those of you that signed up via Eventbrite, it's there. If you're watching it on YouTube, it's in the YouTube replay. So otherwise, you found us, as Cynthia said, so you can always comment, message in any way, and we will get you the resources in whatever way that needs to be. That will also be recorded. If you can't make it, you just sign up and get the recordings instead.
Mm,
A limited time.
yeah. I wanted to say too that hypnotic part, I mean, that's the breathing. Like there's a trance we get ourselves into with the autonomic nervous system that is like a hypnotic state. You're just going along on autopilot. And
Mhm.
so that hypnotic, um, it's not this woo-woo like, they oh my gosh, I have it. Like they always have the stopwatch. Let's go.
Have a stopwatch on. That's fantastic. Of course you do. I love you.
That's about. And so don't come with any preconceived notions about what negative ones you have. If you do have some, please ask ahead of time because guess what? We want that half hour to be really honoring to you. And that being said, we're wrapping up on our first hour together. So we'd love to express our gratitude, say goodbye, wish you happy resourcing of your internal breathing.